Public Safety Telecommunicators of the Month.
PSD Ashley Shin answered a call from a victim who advised they had just been physically attacked and were currently detaining their attacker on the ground. Remaining calm, PST Shin obtained information on both the victim and the attacker and determined they were both currently safe. She continued to speak with the victim until the arrival of deputies on the scene. It was later learned that the attacker had been stalking the victim for weeks and planned on committing a murder. The actions of PST Shin during this call assisted in the peaceful arrest of this potential violent offender. While working dispatch, PST Jessica Heath was alerted to a call for assistance from Cocoa Beach Police in reference to a driver who had fled from a traffic stop. Hearing the direction of travel, PST Heath was aware that the subject was running in the direction of two of our K9 units that were on beach patrol. PST Heath provided these units with the information and monitored the incident by a countywide, where both agencies were patched together. Almost immediately, the units came into contact with the subject and took him into custody without incident. Due to her awareness and quick actions, PST Heath assisted in the arrest of a subject who was later determined to have been wanted by the FBI and FDLE for 4 felony warrants. While working South Radio, PST Sarah Codding dispatched an in-progress burglary call at a residence in Melbourne Beach. Due to the proximity of the call, units from Melbourne Beach also responded. For over 3 hours, PST Codding worked this priority call that involved multiple agencies. PST Codding handled herself in a professional manner, providing updated information to all units on scene. PST Codding assisted in bringing this call to a successful conclusion through the arrest of at least one of the suspects. PSD Eric Williams distinguished himself in the handling of 2 in-progress violent felony calls. The first was the carjacking of a pizza delivery driver in the Cocoa area. As the victim advised, he had been dragged down the street by the suspects. PSD Williams obtained the necessary information that led responding deputies to the vehicle and enabled them to apprehend the suspect. In the second incident, a male called advising that he had been stabbed in the chest. Assuring the safety of the victim, who had managed to drive himself to the hospital, PSD Williams coordinated the response of deputies to the area where the suspect was last observed. With his assistance, deputies were able to locate and take into custody this violent offender. For his actions in handling 2 separate shooting incidents, PSD Andrew Polk is being recognized. The first occurred at a house party in Malabar, where 4 persons were injured. For the next 3 hours, Andrew not only kept up with back-to-back radio traffic, he also assisted with multiple requests from deputies and assisting units from Palm Bay. The second incident involved a male who called 911 reporting that he had been shot. Not only did PSD Polk receive the call, he was also responsible for the radio and response of deputies to the scene. His professionalism during this violent event not only assisted the responding deputies at the scene, but also the deputies who ultimately located and arrested the suspect. PSD Erin Northcutt answered a call from a female who advised that her husband had retrieved a gun from his vehicle and fired it twice. After ascertaining that no one had been targeted or injured, PSD Northcutt remained on the phone with the female for 40 minutes, keeping her calm and obtaining a full layout of the house to assist units on the perimeter. With her assistance, deputies were able to safely remove the female and her children from the residence, obtain a protection order, and remove the firearms from the residence. As deputies were responding to a large apartment complex where a male was threatening to commit suicide, the caller abruptly disconnected before advising the exact location this was happening. Shift Supervisor Andrew LeBeau cross-referenced the phone number and was able to determine the exact location. Based on previous calls, Shift Supervisor LeBeau was able to direct the responding deputies to where the incident was occurring in the large apartment complex. Using this information, deputies were successful in finding the male and providing life-saving medical interventions that ultimately saved the male's life. Without the information provided by Shift Supervisor LeBeau, deputies would not have located the male in the apartment complex in time to successfully intervene and save his life. After answering a 911 call from a suicidal male, Shift Supervisor Nicole Bernard realized that the voice of the caller sounded familiar. Nearly 3 years earlier, Nicole had prevented this same male from committing suicide by keeping him on the phone until deputies arrived, successfully pulling him back over the rail he intended to jump from. Faced with a similar situation, Shift Supervisor Bernard spoke with the male for 10 minutes, keeping him engaged on the call until deputies arrived and safely detained him for mental health evaluation. Nicole is no stranger to handling priority calls. However, this is the first time in her career she has convinced the same person twice that his life was worth living. PSD Andrew Polk is being recognized for 2 incidents, the first regarding an escaped prisoner from the Florida Department of Corrections work release facility. PSD Polk coordinated the response of not just patrol units, but also agents from General Crimes and Homicide, as well as members of the Game Over task force. At the height of the incident, there were over 30 units involved, and he seamlessly fulfilled their requests and continually provided updated information to assist in the search. The second incident involved a traffic stop where a suspect attempted to attack a deputy with a hammer before fleeing the scene. The ensuing pursuit involved multiple agencies and units from several precincts. He coordinated the activities of all units using county-wide radio to patch the units together. During the final stop, the suspect jumped from an overpass, sustaining serious injuries. PSD Polk quickly contacted emergency medical personnel to respond. Due to his efforts, the suspect's movements were accounted for during the entirety of the call, and all deputies involved were uninjured. A 911 call was received from an 8-year-old boy who reported that his parents were involved in a physical altercation. PSD Darian Dovgan answered the call and began gathering information while at the same time calming the child, who was extremely upset. Throughout the call, she assured the boy that help was on the way. PSD Dovgan stayed on the line with the child until deputies arrived at the residence. Her actions in this incident led to a quick response by responding deputies and ensured the safety for the child and the other involved family members. PSD Lana West dispatched deputies to a disturbance where the caller advised that his son had pointed a gun at him, threatening to shoot. PSD West continually updated deputies with additional information as she spoke with the caller, prompting additional questioning as to the layout of the residence and where all parties were in the house. PSD West was able to provide clear, accurate information that allowed deputies to position themselves safely to begin addressing the situation. Her actions ultimately made this incident much safer for all individuals at the scene and led to a successful conclusion of the call with no injuries to any personnel. Units from the Brevard County Sheriff's Office participated in a search for a murder suspect who was wanted out of another county. The suspect had crashed their vehicle in Brevard County, fleeing the scene of the incident on foot. Over 70 units from multiple agencies participated in the search that lasted over 3.5 hours. PSD Shelby Kokendorfer coordinated communications for these units, providing updated locations and information, as well as coordinating the response of aviation and K-9. Her ability to handle ever-changing information during this chaotic event assisted in the capture of this violent suspect without further incident.